right, Deadbeat Nation, grab your coffee, your whiskey, or whatever emotional support beverage got you through family court last week. Because today we're diving into one of those topics that tends to make the system shift uncomfortably in its chair. Today's guest, Lilly Landikusic. Today's guest is Lilly Landikusic, a licensed therapist out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and one of the voices speaking up about something a lot of parents quietly suffer through: custodial interference that nobody seems to enforce. Now, if you've been through high conflict custody battles, you already know the script. Court orders exist, parenting plans exist, judges sign things, and everyone nods. And then sometimes those orders magically turn into suggestions. Lilly works with families on the front lines of that reality. Through her advocacy and her community page, Voices of Hope, she's been helping shine a light on the emotional, legal, and psychological toll when one parent is pushed out of a child's life, and the system moves slower than a DMV line during a power outage. She's also been involved in building awareness and pushing conversations around custodial interference enforcement, something that affects thousands of families but rarely gets talked about openly. Now look, on this show we joke about the madness of modern relationships, divorce, and family court, because humor is sometimes the only thing that keeps people sane. But underneath the jokes, these stories are real. And Lilly spends her time helping people pick up the pieces when those stories go sideways. So today we're talking about what child interference actually looks like in the real world, why enforcement is so inconsistent, the psychological impact on both parents and kids, and what advocacy groups like Voices of Hope are trying to change. So buckle up, Deadbeat Nation, because sometimes the truth about family court isn't funny. But if we don't talk about it, nothing ever gets better. Let's get into it. Lilly, welcome to the show. We've been talking for the past couple of months, I think, and more as we're getting closer to this episode. And this is just an overview episode. I think we plan on doing a lot more. Tell us about Voices of Hope.
Well, thank you so much. And it's always been good talking to you about our shared mission. Voice of Hope is an online social media organization, community-based, that is about family court reform. And it's especially dedicated to victims and survivors of family trauma related to parental alienation. And for those who don't understand that, that would be patterns, strategies, intentions that are with the goal of taking a child from a legal and safe parent. And there's a lot of misunderstandings about it, but our page and our mission is dedicated to everyone who's experienced that, who cares about it, and who cares about protecting all children from all forms of domestic violence, including parental alienation. So thank you for letting me share about our mission. We care a lot about it. You know, anybody who's gone to the page probably knows this is something I'm very passionate about. I feel that Voice of Hope has introduced me to a whole community of international parents, adult children, spouses, step parents, grandparents, siblings, adult children, just everybody that's been experiencing family court, and that it's growing like epidemically. Everyone knows someone now. And there's so much going wrong. And it's so much easier to create solutions than continue like this. And I think Voice of Hope is saying, let's do it. Let's do it now, even if it's grassroots and we don't have all the answers, but we definitely know what's not working, right? And so thank you for giving me this spotlight to kind of talk about what we care about. I think there's a lot of people like me and you who care about this now.
Absolutely. And there are other people I know that you wanted to highlight that you're working with from across the country. But now you're in Utah, you're up in Salt Lake. I'm in the Las Vegas, Nevada area. There are some really great people, guys and gals in all 50 states doing a lot of things. Who are some of the folks you're working with the closest?
I have definitely been influenced by some really incredible advocates and role models that I feel like are much smarter than I am. And I'm just so grateful, and I don't feel like I would be here without them. And I can just name some of them off the top of my head that I've been so grateful to be able to talk personally with, that believed in me, that believed in my story and the mission that we can overcome, working together, networking together, kind of keeping that shared mission. But Robert Garza, I love, he's been such a role model for me. He is definitely a person that will help you believe that you can, even if you're just one person, that you can make a difference. And I'm just so honored to be able to call him my friend. He is the keynote speaker in our conference, Voice of Hope, Empowerment Online, and the Empowerment Community. And my counseling agency, the Empowerment Counseling Services, is hosting a conference here that will be in April, and he's the keynote. And I'm very grateful for him. And then all of the people that have helped with that conference and who are participating in the documentary and who introduced me to alienation when I fell into my own case and I didn't know what was happening. But Dr. William Burnett, um, what a hero he is. He is such a blessing and gift if you've been able to meet him in person or see one of his presentations. He's just so genuine and authentic about knowing we can overcome and that this is a serious mental health issue. He comes at it looking at the DSM and how it's treatable if you don't know him. What a wonderful inspiration he's been. And then Jennifer Harmon out of Colorado, an incredible hero. And as I talk about these people, I'm just fortunate I was able to meet them, a lot of them. I presented in Toronto. So Jennifer has just been a beacon where no one was before. She is one of the first to step out and start to present and stand up, not only on the patterns and the urgency, but the science, and really took a lot of, I feel like, the negativity from that wave of opposition to alienation. And she, I think, was one of the people we really need to respect, that it took a toll. What a hero she is. Josh Marsden, who works with her, what an amazing young scientist who's kind of taking the baton into the new movement of some of these young people who may or may not have experience but want to stand up and see that this is epidemic. It's happening. They're seeing it with their own eyes. They don't need somebody to tell them alienation's not real. They have siblings, cousins, uncles, nephews, that are going through it. And then the other people that presented were Ashish Yoshi, an incredible voice of the science and law and litigation around alienation, how to protect and identify. Um, Alan Blockey, Kelly Baker, Larry DeMarco, who, if you haven't met him, you need to. He is just, to me, the voice of parental alienation prevention and the power of protecting parents and fathers' rights. He works a lot in, but he's just a voice of every parent, every caregiver who loves their child and who wants to change the system. He's in the documentary, and we're going to premiere that in the conference in Salt Lake on the 10th. Who else? Rael
So,
LaPenta is also, and Claudia Ovalis, and some other people. I can go on, but a lot of good people are really already. When people say there's nothing you can do, there's no one helping, that's just not true anymore. It's over the last, and it's just getting faster, and the momentum's getting faster, and the word's getting out. So people um, need to know there's a lot of heroes out there who've sacrificed their lives. They've come out of their own cases. Some of them have not uh, won their case, if you want to call it a win. I don't know what a win is. I think a win is where everyone is healed as a unit for the child, but a lot of the heroes
a
have lost
win, a win is probably never getting to court in the first place.
a win is prevention, just like
Yeah.
sex
Oh, oh.
abuse in any form. Yes, a win
Mm-hmm.
is
You,
prevention. And if it does happen, that there's a unified approach that, hey, we don't do that, or hey, we got to protect the kids. Yeah. Sorry for my long list of so many heroes. I will not stop if you go on. There are really good people like you, people who've gone through it, who've said, you know what, not only am I going to get through it, but I'm going to reach back and help somebody else. And that's the silver lining, I think, I
The
think a lot of
prevention is the key. I tend to use the term proactivity, just acting proactive, studying, researching, understanding proactively, and acting that way. But prevention, same thing. I kind of like yours better. It's just to prevent all this anguish before it ever gets to court, and then when things get to court, and we're talking custody battles, everyone, custody battles, all the way to alienation if it gets that bad. And Lily, you're talking about both a conference and documentary. The conference coming up on April 11th. Tell us a little bit about what that's going to be about and some of the different topics, as well as speakers, but some of the different topics that are going to be at the event.
I'm extremely excited to share about the conference. It's called Solutions for Family Court Reform. It'll be in downtown Salt Lake City the 10th, 11th, and 12th of April. The 10th will be a screening in the evening. So it'll just start in the evening and it will show the documentary, and it will be a collage of the speakers that I was able to interview at the Toronto PASG conference. So just a lot of those experts that I just named, we were able to interview them, put it into a collage and really narrate with statistics, what's going on with the movement, what's the resistance to change, and how to become involved. And that's going to be one of a 4-part series that we're going to show at this conference. And then the speakers at this conference, we're going to use for the next documentary series in a call to action. What's next? How do we become involved? How do we change this? We all know it now. Everybody knows it. We're all in our groups. How do we really say we're going to make a difference? There's no reason we can't. There's not. And
Yeah.
so the conference I'm thrilled about. It's grassroots. It's not sponsored or funded. It's all from people that care. It's 100% hosted and presented by victims and survivors of the family court system, and people who've gone through it know it, people whose stories are unbelievable and miracles of surviving. Um, so that makes me really excited and proud and grateful to all of the people. Claudia is going to present on how to know your penal codes in your state and your rights, that we are finding the solution. That if you can get early intervention and get solutions right at the beginning, a case can be, stopped from decades of damages. So Claudia and Rael are really specialists in how to report and know your rights, and how to stand up for your rights with the police and DCFS, and know scripts, like one that they really impacted my case personally that a lot of people don't know about is how to talk to the police. And it's just can be extremely instrumental in the success of your police report. But sorry, my dogs are coming in and out right now. But
No
might
worries.
have to edit that out. They'll settle down. But geez, um, they always want to just be where the action is,
I will
Daisy. Hey,
let them bark.
they're
Let them bark. I've got mine's right. My big one's right over there. The two little ones are outside because those little feet just tipper tapper across the hard flooring, and I can't
yeah,
even
they would
think when
be
I'm on a
right up in
podcast.
here if she wants to. You can tell, but a little bit more that I can tell you about the conference. The Saturday keynote is Robert and Sunday, and he's going to share about legislative progress that he's making and other people are making in all of the states. That's remarkable. And even if the laws aren't changing, to go to the hearings is very inspirational, and anybody can go. And you feel like, wow, I am part of a movement. So he's going to speak about that. And then Rael's going to talk in detail about how to start to train people to see the earliest signs of parental alienation and custodial interference, and how to know how to word that in court orders and police reports and DCFS reports when you have a child that is being withheld from a safe parent and they're telling you have to get an attorney. And the average that people, parents, victims see their child after that, following that advice, is 227 days. So following the advice to get an attorney is not
And
worth
that's the
it.
average.
That's the average. And then
That
think about that. Once
Excuse my
a
squeak.
parent gets to court, a lot of times the court will say, well, now you need to do an assessment. The parent who's alienating says you're not safe. So now you need to do this, this, this. You need to pay for this, this, this. And then it turns into a year, 2 years. And this is what we're stopping. And I think the conference, in my hope, is in a grassroots movement, taking the voices and the lessons of those of us who've gone through it and said, no, no more. Enough is enough. We can change this. And the exciting part about the conference is we're going to invite the AFCC, the police department, DCFS, the guardian ad litem's office, the bar, be a part of this. We've got Sunday focusing on prevention programs, pilot programs that are alternatives. So we've started to implement those, and I want to be able to talk to you more on your podcast about the progress of those. So Sunday will be very focused on using trauma screeners for participants, showing advocates how to use trauma screeners, showing advocates a digital binder that can walk them through how to organize a victim's case right away, very do it yourself or with an attorney, pro se, with a therapist. But we're starting to get a model that can say, do you have falsified allegations? Have you had custodial interference? Have you had blocked contact? No deprivation of rights? And then we're noticing that once clients know their rights, their cases are just managed very differently. When they have a witness, when they have a supporter, when they have a trauma-informed specialist that says, no, you can't break the law, you can't break the court orders, you can't. But what we're finding, if they don't have those, even if their case is cut and dry, that they are right, a lot of these courthouses are really not following the law, and people are thinking it's just them. And that's one of the biggest tragedies. I think the conference we want to say, Voice of Hope wants to say, is you are not alone. You are not alone. This is not your fault. If you fell in to this, you have to get an attorney and divorce industry and guardian ad litem, reunification therapist, special master, parent coordinator, custody evaluator, attorney, opposing counsel, therapist for the child, right? Who does that? No one lives that way. That
I
is an
can't even
industry.
keep up with that list that you just rattled off, and I was trying of different
And they're
entities and
all
people, and
real.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what happens too is, I think once the custodial evaluator role played out and people started to just get irate and just extremely angry about paying $75,000 for someone to say, well, it seems like both parents should be involved. 75,000, right? And so that role's kind of gone away. And now you see a lot of those attorneys, right
What's his
there.
name? What's her name?
I love him. I love him so
Wh-
much.
What's
He's
his
so
name?
spoiled. Look at Bo.
Bo.
Is named after a hockey player. My son, we
Bo.
got, so this kind of
He's
speaks.
shameless. He's shameless. He's on camera.
He is.
He doesn't
Oh,
even. This is not getting edited. Absolutely, this is going on Dogs and Cats magazine or whatever.
okay. If it's so him too. So he was, what's interesting about how this segues into what we're talking about is so many of our lives, so many aspects of our lives intertwine
Mm.
with what happened in our custody case with our children. These are my daughter's dogs. And I don't really like to speak about my kids, because I want to respect their privacy. But, a lot of these kids, when they get taken in a custody case, they lose the relationship with their grandma, with their pet, with their garden. It is really tragic, and it's exciting to be able to talk about. It's exciting to be able to have a conference where we're talking about the trauma, the solutions, the resources, the ability to see the paradigm that we can change it. But it's in our everyday lives. I'm sure it's in yours too, where you're getting reminded of the loss, the grief, the injustice, the lies, the trauma. And that's what the
Um,
conference is about.
I'm learning a lot about that. Yes, in my lived experience, it was a long time ago. It was, if we're 2026, I have a daughter and a son in that order, and they were teenagers back then, right about in the middle, 2015, 2016, about ready to drive. And right about then, 2014 to 2017 was that finalization. How do I say it? The alienation got strong enough to where it started to become estrangement, like call it severe parental alienation as they rate it in the Matrix, right? Um, just for the folks listening, and I'm preaching to the choir to quite a few people listening, I'm sure. When the damage from alienation happens, it's going to last very potentially a long time into family events. And like you say, the alienation of other family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles, blended family, blended family alienation. It is all divide. It is all separation, and it is all intentful. That's the thing. It is intentful. We can go through all of the laws and all the legislation and all the things that we do in strategy and court to, prove legalities, prove some law has been broken. But these are man-made laws. These are court laws, procedures that have evolved over time. And when I think about the intent of the alienating parent and the pain and the hurt coming to the target parent, and then, like we always talk about, the real damage to the kids that not a lot of people are aware of what real damage we're talking about because laugh with me, we all get to a certain point in our adulthood, probably in our mid 20s, and we start to realize we're all a little off balance comically.
Right.
We're
It's
all a
being
little
human.
emotional.
It's
We're
that
all, yeah,
right.
it's being human.
Being human. That's who
But
you
the
are.
but the drive to be the drive to tell someone else they have to be so perfect or they're going to be the alienated, or I'm sorry, the target
Oh
parent.
yeah.
It's ridiculous,
Oh,
So
right.
what you were in the conference, I think that's great. And there's two other things I definitely want to hit on that you're doing. Start with documentary. When do you plan on releasing your documentary? And you mentioned a documentary series. What are your ideas on some of the format putting that together?
I'm so grateful that you asked about the documentary. So it is a four-part series, and we're going to premiere the final of the first, the 10th of April, and that'll be the Friday night of the weekend that we have the conference, Solutions for Family Court. And the four-part series it's called A Duty to Warn, A Call to Action, Pain to Purpose, Purpose to Power. And the reason we uh, entitled it that and ordered it that way is we feel like it really is a duty to warn that any of us, it was make me cry, but any of us who would have been told that we would go through what we did would have changed everything. We would have done everything, not just for ourselves and our children, but any child that we know. Right now, there's children that don't know, and the parent who's targeted, like we were, do not know that they're probably going to not see their child again. Like they're just getting into the court. I get calls like that. I feel like I'm going through alienation, and I know what that means. Like we have got to get them help. This is urgent. Like if we do not like prevent this at a treatable stage, it is tragic. And so getting back to your question,
You're right. It's
with
awful
the
hard to
conference,
reverse. It's awful hard to reverse, isn't it?
just like sex abuse, I had a girl who came to, I'm a therapist, so I've been doing therapy. I feel like I always tell people I'm no different than anybody else. I just have an unusual window because I've been a therapist, a business owner. I've seen trends, I've developed programs. So I've been able to see that mental health is identifiable, preventable, treatable, all these things. So when it's not, you're always like, why? I'm trying to create a pilot program. Everybody's blocking it. That just does not make sense. So why? And then in family court, you start digging deeper. Well, there's some really scary whys. And honestly, they come out as close, if not worse, than the Epstein files. And I am not kidding. And so when we said a duty to warn, I was like, that fits. If I could tell anybody out there, anybody who is maybe thinking about divorce or not having a good marriage, you might wake up one day, get divorce papers, your kids are gone. And in the United States, think that can't happen to me. Yes, it can. It can happen. It can. I'm a therapist. Our agency serves 300 average, high risk families every week, 350 at some of our peaks. And I was not able to access my parental rights, constitutional rights. I was not able to access penal codes, laws. I was routed in. You have to get an attorney, you have to get a therapist, you have to get a special master, you have to get a court order, but you already have one. Why do you have to get another one? We have to get another one. You have to go to mediation. I already went to mediation. This is what it said. Well, there's nothing we could do. It's not our jurisdiction. You have to get a supervisor. Well, I'll write it down. Well, do you have your case number? Do you have, I mean, it is psycho. And people, they're making people kill themselves. And it's no joke anymore. So it's a hard conversation. And I think you have to keep your head on. It's like the Titanic. I feel like we've all seen who are in the alienation movement. I'm just going to take a pause. We've all seen faces or know them who didn't make it, who didn't make it, who didn't make it. Like some of these cases where a dad or a mom kills their children and we're not talking about it. Schools aren't talking about it. Coaches aren't talking about it. Mental health schools, social work schools, assessments. This is different. I've been in mental health for going on almost 30 years. I'm older, so I've seen it. And Utah was sued for 4 kids dying in foster care one year. And I saw all this energy, investment, prevention, and it worked. And that's what I was trained in. I was trained in home, and then I privatized it. And I said, this is such a great model. In home prevents kids from being removed, prevents falsified allegations, it prevents everything. It's a family systems model at its purest. And when I saw no one else is doing that, or someone could lie on a court paper and take a kid, I was like, we would never let that happen in our agency. So then I was like, oh, you guys aren't even meeting with the kids? Oh, you're not meeting with them for 18 months as a guardian ad litem until the hearing?
Mm.
Oh, and then I started to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm a whistleblower. And then I found nobody wanted to hear. Like I would blow the whistle, I blow. And so then I started to say, I'm going to do a documentary, because I noticed that when I said to people, can I put that on film? Can I have that be a formal response? That I'm going to say that you don't know the penal code for custodial interference, and you don't know how the parent should stand up, and you don't know the protocols, and you don't even know what the criteria is in the Utah code that says $500 fine, you go to jail for a night. If you do it twice in a year, it's a felony. You don't know any of that. You don't know encouragement of abandonment. You don't know civil stalking. You don't know fraud, libel, like
And you're talking about the authorities here,
the
just the
police,
general authorities,
all of
police
them,
department,
police,
things like that, that
DCFS.
get called out to these
So
situations.
I have to, this is what I have a meeting, with the director of DCFS in Utah on Friday. And I've got a meeting with downtown Salt Lake PD. And I've requested a meeting with the DA's office for 3 years. And in the 3 years, I keep telling them we have a pilot program. We can do an assessment. We can identify these high risk cases. They're very easy to identify. At the time of divorce, there's usually, cheating, double accounts, hiding. The alienation comes later after, the abuser, if there is one in a divorce, and it doesn't get stopped, it will go through the kids later. That's what we see. And all it takes is stopping it, but they don't. They don't. And it wasn't always like this in Utah. So when they tell me there's nothing they can do, I always tell them, oh no, I was trained in Utah. I was trained by the police and by DCFS in Utah after that lawsuit. It was a long time ago, but we always say, what's the court order? Who should have the kids? We know the laws. Insurance has also laws about how you do therapy with kids that are in custody or kids who have blocked contact, there's mandated reporting. You're supposed to report a crime, but therapists won't. And why? I think my experience is this new funnel that says, okay, what do they tell you? Everybody out there is going to be able to answer this. When you say, I can't access my child, my ex is not following my court order. I don't know where my child is. My ex won't call me back. My ex won't let me access my visitate. All of it. It's, you have to get an attorney. That was never there. That's not part of parenting,
A,
attorneys.
a couple of days ago, we were talking about you brought up the capitalization of family law, and you went down a quick list of about 7 or 8 different entities that have evolved that an awful lot of people use on a daily basis. The communication apps that cost money as opposed to the communication apps that do not cost money. The counselors, lawyers, and programs that are high cost instead of the pilot programs that are out there, like yours, for instance. But and I do want to talk about your pilot program in a little bit here in a few minutes. But the capitalization of it. Let's talk a little bit about how that has shaped family courts and the outcomes and the strategies and everything, the methods about it.
Um, in my view, the capitalization of divorce has taken an extreme situation and attached extreme profit. And then out of that, it's kind of, once I think there was a funnel that kind of made people believe you can't access your child, you have to go through, the court. Then it became, well, I've seen cases where if the victim has, middle class, access to finances, they'll order really expensive, unbelievably impossible to sustain kind of orders. You have to get a reunification therapist, you have to get a special master, you have to get a parent coordinator, you have to get an assessment. You know, they just dole them out. And I've seen people that are just dirt poor and say, there's no way I can do that. And they'll find, okay, well, your grandma who's two, towns over, and you'll have to take the public transportation, but, and they'll do it for free. And I'll just see like, wow, they just will take every bit of assets of a family once they're in the family court system. And if an abuser is able to weaponize the court and point the finger, what we see is no one stands up. So a victim will keep trying to fight for their kid. I'm not going to give up. I'll sell my house. I'll sell my arm. I'll sell my legs. I'll cut off my legs. I want to see my daughter, and so the courts thrive on it. Like it's almost, in my opinion, having a cancer prevention hospital that is causing cancer on that scale of national. Like the amount, if you were to look at a hospital, what goes into a hospital on, just the garments and the laundry and the security and the telecom and all these that have gotten around this family court industrial complex. And all we have to do, the negative is clear, but the positive is also, when you look at the problem clearly, you see the solution clearly. And that's why we wanted to do the documentary in a 4-part series. Is I think it is vital to look at the problem really clear, because it will just, well, there you go. And the biggest part of the problem is the money. If you were to stop any family court money, it would stop altogether, and people would find other resources. It might be a therapist, pastor, someone in their family, community, but they are being told, corralled, as millions of people that are going through divorces are being corralled to believe
Hmm.
that the only option is to get an attorney and go. And that is the worst. You can do mediation. You can do it on your own. You can do a prenup. You can do it with a therapist. You can call a family member. You can do family meetings. The last place you should go if you want a divorce in a healthy way is the United States family courts. Isn't that crazy? It's
Unless
crazy.
unless you want to use that tool for an advantage. And
As a weapon. Yes.
as a weapon. Yeah, unless you're the anyone is the type of person, male, female, doesn't matter, going into the courts and they really want to play hardball like an extremely aggressive corporate or investment attorney, like very aggressive, like corporate takedown type attitude. Might as well be family takedown type attitude. I don't think that's a stretch to say. I think there's a lot of people in family law, and I think there's a lot of judges that are on the family bench that are very good people with very good hearts with very good intentions. I think that they are in a machine that is not prepared to handle the emotional and mental struggles and manipulations that happen with humans, not just families. It's like what one of my favorite sayings, why are families screwed up? Because there's people in them. So that's no surprise, like you say high profit from high conflict. I like that phrase. I haven't heard that before. So let's talk a little bit about prevention. Your pilot program. I'm really excited about your pilot program. And am I not mistaken? Did you get your first court ordered case?
Yes.
Yeah. I like that smile. Back up a little bit. Tell us about the pilot program and maybe how it kind of, I think we can imagine how it originated, but if you want to maybe give some of the details on how it came about, how you put it together, maybe how long it took, and then again, what's it all about?
So the pilot program is called the Empowerment Collaborative Co-Parenting Project. And I developed it as a solution model because when I started to address family court reform and problems, I kept being told, you can't do that. And I just kept thinking, why can't I? And you can't have a team meeting and you can't bring opposing counsels in and have a unifying fact checking meeting. You can't do that. And I was like, sure, I can. I can do it right now. And I remember with one attorney, I actually said that, sorry, my dog is doing the same thing. Daisy, come here then. Both of them. It's like, get up here then if you're going to be bad. Sit down. They're
So
just,
so
sorry,
we've got Daisy and Bo. Where's
come
Daisy?
out.
Oh, there's
Look at
Daisy.
her. Anyway,
Shameless.
it's funny. You call him that because that fits to a T, but no, or you gotta leave. Both of you. Nope, not you either. Um, see if I can do this with them. If not, I will ask them to leave. I'll make sure they're locked out next time. But
Podcast behavior canines.
this will be like the
Podcast.
unfiltered, like the bloopers, right? That real. But the pilot program I'm really excited about because we've run 3 rounds of it now. So we've learned a lot. And some of the things that we've learned are not so much about the program, but the response from the family court industrial complex, kind of as we called it. Um, the pilot program is really set up to be like a universal um, intervention model. So it could be used by a therapist, guardian ad litem, an attorney. It could be used by yourself, just similar to if you were looking at an Alzheimer's prevention model or a addictions eating disorder, that it walks people through prevention to crisis stabilization and how to get back. And the thing I love about it is it really is structured in modules that have agreements and templates that can be customizable. So it's taking a client from being in this high conflict, unknown arena to nope, we have step one. Did you have a parenting plan? Where's your court orders? Where's your affidavit? What's your parent time schedule? How are you guys communicating? How do you handle conflicts? Oh, we go to our attorneys. No, no. How do you handle conflicts? They can't answer it. We go to our attorney. Who does that? That's a way of life. So now attorneys are this embedded position, like even above the parents as a family
Uh,
member. People will say, I
yeah.
call my attorney because we can't figure out President's Day weekend. No, a good attorney would get them into some kind of solution, but then it would take away the money and that billing, so there's not an incentive. If it was switched where the attorneys don't get paid and let my dogs are going to be, you're being too bad. You're being too bad. You're ruining it. I'm sorry. Mm.
They're
It's
so
funny because
bad.
I think they can
They
tell when I get emotional and they like to be around me. And I feel really emotional about the pilot program. Like to have this new case is just exciting because we've advanced so much with the pilot program. Like when we started it, it's trauma informed. It used all those protocols. It uses customizable templates. It walks through a parenting plan, safety plan, trauma screener, litigation, abuse screener, your penal codes. And then if you have to go to court, it maps that out. And it's so structured. But what I would find is the court wouldn't have it. Mm-mm. They don't want the solution. And then I was like, that's a new problem I never saw. I never, ever thought I would go to the court system. I've won awards, not to, I'm nobody, but I've never in my wildest dreams would have thought I would take a prevention model that could help millions of children and be turned away. It would blow your mind, and that's when you really get how big this movement is. This is huge. It's going
my
to change lives
conversations.
to overcome it.
Yeah. Um, my experience with a lot of the initial conversations that I've had, and I'm talking about 2 to 3 years ago, when I first started talking with locally here in the Las Vegas area, some of the family attorneys, and I was just kind of exploring this different options from the very beginning. Didn't even really have an idea of what exactly those options, alternative options or reforms should be. But I felt like I was talking to someone that absolutely did not understand what language I was talking about. I
Yes.
would I would ask a question and the answer would be very litigious. And I'm like, well, no, how do we stay out of your courtroom? How do and I started talking about, I remember I asked a question one time about a custody prenup. And I probably maybe used a different phrase, but the attorney I was talking to said that that cannot be done. You cannot have a prearranged custody agreement. And logically, thinking through it almost right away, you can understand that. Situations change, people change for the better, for the worse, and things like that. But I still think there should be something in that arena. I'm currently developing a pre-co-parenting questionnaire that is as dark humor as I can get it on purpose. Let's laugh a little bit, but these are real pitfalls that are coming to anybody that's thinking about co-parenting together, whether they are married or not. Hopefully they are married, you know. But um, yeah, it's wild that there is this big gap between a lot of our government, and this is a very broad comment. The gap between our governmental systems, local, regional, state, and federal, is every single one of them is separating further and further from we the people. And in this family law arena and custody arena, family court battle arena, it's all reactive. It's all reactive. So we gotta be talking to our society, our youth, middle-aged, older folks, every family dynamic, every neighborhood, every zip code. Um, I think the American family, which was supposed to be the most important thing to protect, according to our founding fathers,
Right.
is not the most protected thing anymore. I would, so let's turn it
Exactly.
back. Let's just keep turning it back one day at a time.
It's exciting. I mean, the movement is very alive now. You know, if I had the resources, I feel like that are that out there now, I wouldn't have gone through, and my children wouldn't have gone through the just unbelievable trauma. And these cases are unbelievable. Anyone out there that's listening that has gone through a family court case, we see you. I would never be able to tell my story years ago. Now people are speaking out, people are taking risks, people are going public. I'll get on, with Voice of Hope, and I'll see someone else that is just doing a federal lawsuit, someone who shut down a really bad agency that was, trafficking some of the kids through bad guardian ad items or bad, therapists to just keep the abuse going and make money off it. And people are really like taking this movement as victims finding the solution and victims becoming the solution. And I've never seen anything like it. That's the only silver lining. I mean, and then working on yourself. I think that's the other message of the conference and the documentary is work on yourself. Do not. That's one of the best pieces of advice I got. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear yours. What was the best, like, if I would have known then kind of advice, but don't stop living. Don't
I can, I
stop
can,
living.
for me, I can only speak for me. The kind of clarity that I feel to answer that question in order was I, I wish I had my dad's personality. He was an incredibly stoic, incredibly forgiving individual. So that was number one, that role model. Whether I was that way all the time, which I wasn't, I've had to do a lot of work to reel my personality back in, reel my emotions and the awareness and the awareness and the pride for that strength to control reactions and turn them into good responses, good thoughtful responses with wisdom. But that's taken a while. It's taken some good ass whoopings and a lot of loss. But in
Yes.
order, again, kind of chronologically here, what I've really leaned on, again, my dad, he's passed on, but the legacy he's left behind is tremendous. Um, then in the heat of alienation, when it was really starting to take effect and my self-esteem was dropping like to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and the anxiety was just insane at 3 o'clock in the morning every night. I found Stoicism and I really dove in and I still study it every day. And not too long ago, I also dove into the Bible and Christianity. And I really lean on kind of those three key factors or philosophies, studies, and everything. Um, I think one of the most amazing things that can happen is if a target parent can get an alien, let me say this again, if a target parent can get an alienating parent to study the Bible and or just pray, I've heard a couple of stories where the couple that's breaking up, they're having issues. They did not have a consistency with the church or Christianity prior. Sometimes, one of the spouses is maybe a little more religious, has more of a relationship with Jesus and God than the other. But I've heard a couple of cases where there was no real study, not atheists, not agnostic, just not really practiced, right? Not no, there's no consistency of going to church every Sunday or Bible study in the middle, or if you're like me, kind of YouTube junkie going down some of the pastors that have YouTube channels around the nation, some of them internationally. But then one, both, two target parents started going to church. One of them really deeply into Bible study and reached out with some of that messaging and forgiveness and dialogue to the alienating parent, and they don't have they are embracing communication tools. They're not going to court. One of the two situations dropped the the court case, call it completely stopped it, completely backed up, went another direction, and they are a blended family situation. They're currently working on really improving that and enjoying that. I heard the word enjoying that about a week and a half ago when I was talking to him. So yeah, man, for me, surrendering ego, letting go of some ego death, stoicism, as much commune as you can with a lot of good support and love, not bitter, not the kind of bitter support where your feelings are hurt and you go seek out misery and then you go, hate together. Life's too
Mhm.
short. Life's too short. Take it from Captain Angry here. Life is too short. And and so for me it would be stoicism, good examples, good commune, ego death, stoicism, and church. good old Jesus, because the word of the Bible, if you spend enough time each week really reading it, you start feeling different, you start thinking different. There's an awful lot of weight that can be lifted off of your shoulders. Doesn't mean the world's changed. Doesn't mean that whatever difficult things you're going through are going to change, but just simply having a change in your mental outlook can be that salvation that everyone's
Oh,
looking for, right?
yeah, very beautifully said. I love what you said. And it's through this journey, and hopefully you and I can talk more on your podcast, but I think there's a lot of community in family court trauma and overcoming. And there's
Yeah.
fathers, mothers, grandparents. I mean, we're getting adult children now that are contacting and saying, "That's me. You're talking about my story." And I read the comments and it blows my mind. And we're all at this crossroads where we found ourselves kind of in the same grief and injustice. And but I guess that quote, the greater the breakdown, the better the potential for a breakthrough. And I think that's what we are. We're the breakthrough. And hopefully we can keep this common ground, because I think the more you talk so well and invite, those of us who have passion about change, and you create this common ground. And if we can just keep talking about, how to prevent it, how to identify it, how to heal through it, how to see it, how to teach our children, how to train, we can overcome this is overcomable. I didn't believe it before, but I fully believe now that we can overcome parental alienation, family court failures. We can create pilot programs. We can use AI and get people to be able to stay out of court into preventative, ongoing co-parenting programs that help them say, yeah, we got into a huge fight, but we don't want to kill each other. We don't want our children to be in family court their whole childhood. Like, what a horrible solution. That's just not an acceptable solution for children. And it's sad that, like you had said at the beginning when we were talking, the capitalization of divorce and custody. And it's sad that so many millions of kids got kind of caught up in what was like the pain meds, Oxycontin, tobacco, pharmaceuticals. These are
Hmm.
industries that were from profit. No one in the pain med industry, I don't think, started with it thinking it would kill that many people, right? But it did. It did. And some of these tactics falsify a protective order. I've seen, I don't know if you have on YouTube, but, some of those inner conference meetings where in the early 2000s, maybe the 90s, they were training family law attorneys to falsify a protective order because it'll give you leverage. Think about that.
Mm.
Falsify a protective order, and the kids aren't going to see their parent. You're going to put them into a state of shock. You're going to traumatize the kids permanently, and they may never recover. And that's your strategy to make a buck. And that's got to end. Like, the cat's out of the bag on that. I think there's a lot of people like me who have no problem picking up a phone and calling out an attorney and saying, "Where's your protocols? You don't have any? Oh, we've got a case that just came from your agency that hasn't seen their child as a safe legal parent for 2 years, and you don't have any policies, procedures, protocols? Okay, let's go. We need to talk." And I think that it's coming out now. And I think there's those of us who are saying we're not going to wait for legislation. A lot of the legislators, in my opinion, from seeing some of the hearings, are family law attorneys. Think about that. Think about that. Everybody's saying why, why. There's a why, and there's a why that we're going to solve it too. And in my opinion, our heroes have kind of taught us by paving the way that we may not have it, you know, carved out in the forest, but we've got our tools, we've got our will, we've got our faith in God, like you said. We have our morals about protecting children, all children, from abuse, trauma, and injustice. And something about that is going to create the solution. So you're creating this space. I appreciate it. I feel very honored to talk about these issues with someone who gets it. And I hope we can keep talking, keep on, more specific areas that help people. What are the signs? What are your early interventions? What do you do if you've already lost contact and you're highly estranged? What can you do? But
all,
people need to know they're not alone, right? Like you, me.
wherever, yeah, wherever in the timeline it could be. Hopefully, in a perfect message set, it would be talking to our youth before they ever became parents. And a lot of the conversation starts with self-love, self-confidence, a little bit about relationships, a bit about the woes and pitfalls of the world, and then into co-parenting. But that's pretty grandiose. Someone told me if I've got a grandiose idea, then it's doable. So
That's what's up now. That's what's happening. I think there is a place for everyone's voice right now. I think people are finding ways through social media and using AI to say, I have a solution. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to create this in my community. I'm going to become a guardian ad litem. That's what we tell people. Become a mediator, become an attorney, paralegal. You'll be a great one if you've gone through the system. We need you. And that's what's exciting, is to see a movement that is really of the victims turning into survivors and then becoming the solution. Just not even to save maybe their own children, because some of us really need to be in that space you said we need to talk about that one, Jeff. We need to talk about that ego, letting go.
yeah,
That I think is
ego death is tough. Ego death is tough. I mean, it's a
it's
lot
gotten me in
easier.
so much trouble.
It is a lot easier to drop that ego in the beginning than to drop it later because you've learned how, but it's kind of too late because the things that are happening, like let's go through evolutions. Children graduate from junior high, children graduate from high school, maybe certain accolades in sports or music or other talents, then college, then relationships, then marriage, then kids. That alienation, it's very possible that alienation is going to set a trajectory that is absolutely never going to come back. And you want to talk about praying to God for and asking Jesus and God to make something happen when you know they work on their own time. And so yeah, ego death, would love to talk about that. Would love to open up and be vulnerable about that. The word surrender, not too many years ago, not too many years ago, for me, it's probably 25. So probably 20 years ago, I heard that surrender, we know in the Western civilization, means to wave the white flag and pretty much give up and we're defeated. The term surrender in Eastern civilizations means to open up and learn. And I hope I didn't brutalize those two definite that second definition, but ultimately, that's where it's at. And now I want to now I'd love to talk about your task force idea and setting up some updates, maybe weekly or bi-weekly, and getting out there. You were describing that to me the other day. I'd love to chat about that for a few minutes right now. What are you doing with the task force? And it's basically in the custodial interference arena with the entities that are not acting upon the current laws already in place. Did I get that pretty well right?
Yes.
And the task force may be looking at other things too, right?
T the task force that we are looking at starting will be weekly in Utah and public. And we wanted to use it as an example for other people that are wanting to do more and become more active in leadership and change in their communities. The task force is involving an invitation to all of the major heads of the human services departments that are involved in child and family protection and welfare. So in Utah, we call it DCFS or CPS, the police, the guardian ad litem's office, the ombudsman's office, the DA's office, the AG, the governor now at this point, because I've been on and off with it for about 3 years. So I've contacted all these offices and we've made agreements. And in my opinion, there has not been progress. So at this point, our task force is really to show we have a pilot program. We're ready to become the solution. we want to see if you'll get on board. So police, we want to talk about custodial interference and why it's not being enforced at what we're seeing as more of an epidemic, catastrophic level where it's causing a lot more egregious permanent damages because you're not stopping it at a simple ticket. The first, hey, do you have your quarter? Do you have your quarter? Okay, it looks like, yeah, I'm going to call. We've seen officers who do it right. And then we've seen 99% of them say, you have to get an attorney. We won't even look at your court order. And they'll say, it's legislation. No, custodial interference is in the penal codes in every state, and it has been for 50 years. So when parents know their rights, we see the police respond different to parents who don't know their rights and say, okay, I guess I won't go get my kid. Okay, I guess I'll go get an attorney, but I don't have, okay. And actually, it's the ones who follow the law that get the most harmed in the family court. So the task force would be first to be a duty to warn that we see a preventable, identifiable trauma that is in a pattern that is going on systemically in family court cases. We want to be able to get people help, make them know they're not alone, that there's resources. And then we want to invite all the different departments in the task force. Now, if they refuse to come, the DV groups, if we want to talk about parental alienation and ask Utah DV groups to come and find common ground so that we're never, ever harming a child victim of domestic violence or trauma from misinformation or inaccurate diagnoses. So we feel comfortable about going public now with these, and that the pilot program shows a model. We want to share it for anybody who's working in the field to be able to use these customizable trauma screeners, parenting plan proposals, parent time schedule proposals. It has a transitional plan. A lot of this is where we see the solution happen when you start to work on baby steps. Even if there's been a lot of trauma, there may be abuse allegations, but where they are both safe parents, they are both normal range parents. They may have gotten mad, they got divorced for a reason, but they're healthy and they should be in the children's lives. We're not talking about a case that's abused a child and we're trying to make them co-parent at all. And I don't even want to go into that conversation because that is a different one of how to co-parent with an abuser. We would say that someone who blocks access, weaponizes, falsifies allegations, that's an abuser.
Mm-hmm.
Other people might say, well, the abuser is only someone who physically abused or threatened to kill us. But what about the abuser that won't let a parent see their child or grandparents? That's a horrific form of abuse, but it's
Mm-hmm.
very much rewarded in the
Mm-hmm.
courts. So the more we feel like, I guess, we create a model that's public, then people, one, will start to feel like they're not alone. And at a minimum, we can try to prevent suicidal ideation or people turning to self-medicating, alcoholism, giving up. Anybody who's worked in these groups with victims of family court abuse and being blocked from their child, these people are at, I mean, they are at they are questioning everything about why society is letting their children be ripped from them, their children be taught to destroy a family, why no one's standing up for the laws, why no one's standing up for morals, and they go through a complete
Lack of
breakdown.
trust.
Yeah,
A complete lack of trust.
and they
A
become
com-
suicidal, and a lot of them are living a silent form of suicidal ideation. And I want to
Mhm.
share that message, I guess, if I can, through your platform, that if you do know anyone who's experiencing family court trauma, to try to reach out to them and just say, I see you. There's so many people on Voice of Hope who will comment, when I'm having a 3 a.m. post because I can't sleep because I'm thinking of, the loss of my daughter.
Mhm.
People will come and say, I see you. And sometimes that's all a person that's going through family court needs, is to be seen, to be believed, to be validated.
Mhm.
No one's going to fix it. We have to fix it ourselves. No victim, I think, is expecting that anymore. But to not be believed is one of the most cruel. To be told that your form of abuse is not real is highly, in my opinion, offensive. And I think we need to start by standing up for each other as victims. And I'm seeing that. That's one of the most inspirational parts of Voice of Hope. Oh, I just want to thank everyone out there. I know we've gone on a long time today. We can talk more later, but if I could say
Yeah,
thank you.
well, I'm excited to, folks watching. Lily and I have talked about this task force effort for the past couple of days. I think it's a great idea. So you keep your eyes out. I think we're going to put out again very timely updates, and the goal of that task force is to get out to all 50 states and even the territories, U.S. territories. I know you said, and you're creating just a lot of like kind of like Robert Garza, a very duplicatable style that to replicate, in duplicate, replicate in every city in the U.S. And
Well,
I
what
love it.
people need to understand as victims, one of the problems that they have is they've created millions of us now. We really do have the power. We are often divided. I think men's and women's mothers and fathers are encouraged sometimes. And I think we need to realize that the family court wants us to be divided. So really try, in our communities to look at is that a abuse targeting, prevention, or are they stoking the fire? Is that a group that's, encouraging women to hate men or encouraging fathers to blame it's every mother, is causing this?
Hmm.
And, step out of your box and start to see, who's making money off us being divided. And that's where we have power. As soon as we're united and we stop buying in, more and more people are going pro se. And when you think about that, what's going to happen? A lot of these attorneys now are what? Becoming guardian ad litems. So then you're still in the system with the same players. But as soon as you start to say, I don't need a guardian ad litem, or I want to survey them, and I want to pick if just like if it was a doctor for brain cancer for my child, I want to pick them. I don't want them to be ordered like someone else. And because one bad actor can just destroy a safe and loving and dedicated parent's life, one bad
The
professional. So
the the financial cost and the time cost are exorbitant. There are apparently, and I need to double check this, heard from a couple of different sources here locally in Southern Nevada, Clark County, Nevada, Clark County Family Courts. Excuse me, is we have a Judge Gordon in one of the family departments, and he has had for the past couple of years, I believe, a pro se program where if both spouses are coming in, whatever the case may be, or whatever the complaint or issue may be, it's just a different set of rules. It is a pro se rules, a set of pro se rules instead of the same rules of discussion and strategy that two lawyers and a judge would understand, that language that they understand, what you can say, what you can't, what's admissible, what is not, what is risk, what you say, what you can't. The public is totally at a disadvantage every time they step into that arena. Major disadvantage. And it shouldn't be. Families should not be at a disadvantage anywhere. We should be bringing all kinds of support systems to the family instead of
it's
places where
almost
the family has to go and prove itself.
a metaphor that I think of when I think of what you're saying is if you were to go to a hospital and you would lose your child because of a technicality on how to sign in. You know, if every time you go to get help with the doctor, that there's like an escape room, like, well, you've got to fill out this form. Well, you've got to go to an attorney. Well, you've got to get the right attorney. Well, you're going to have to do your affidavit, your timeline. Well, we're going to have to get you to a therapist. Well, we're going to have to get you diagnosed. It is not meant for victims. It is meant for the court. The court is meant to protect the court. There is no child development or couples co-parenting trauma informed program that would ever do any of the things that are being court ordered every day in the United States. So, the time is now, and I think we are the power. There's people like you inspiring people like me that our voice matters. Robert Garza always said that to me, one person can make a difference. And you are the one person, whoever's listening out there, it's you, and all of the people that have contacted us when I feel like giving up and saying, no, it's you. And really, I think we are united. We're lifting each other. And it's really, humbling to see and feel called, that we may not have been given the solution, but we're going to make sure that it's given to the next generation.
You're right. I don't think it is sensationalism at all to coin Robert Garza's phrasing of before too long, America will look at these parental rights and alienation issues as a matter of civil rights. I don't think people realize how many times civil rights get removed from an individual in a courtroom, in a family courtroom. And I couldn't even begin to tell you how. I'm not an attorney. I don't understand the technicalities, but I've heard an awful lot of people talk about it, and I've even heard attorneys talk about it. They know.
I I think some of the topics, if we could, kind of throw out there, and maybe people will have ones they can give us suggestions, but some of the ways that your court process could be weaponized, I can definitely share on that. From the DCFS, the police, the schools, all different taking a child out of state, blocking them from medical, using a disability. I mean, and that is true. If you're so much more empowered. If you can be told, this is the system. It's not what you're told. It's not going to be getting an attorney who's going to know how to help you. You're going to have to fight for yourself. You're going to have to help your attorney or go pro se. You're going to have to get yourself with other people. You're going to have to keep your self care. You're going to have to get your head on straight and swim. And, we're cheering for you, but some people have to get out of that water and they'll freeze to death. They'll fall, and we've seen it. And some of the people, I tell them, you have to choose for yourself what your path is, but it's not to give your life to the family court. Don't do that.
Lily, Lily, in one of the men's groups that I was on a weekly Zoom on earlier this morning, a new gentleman into the group, he made the comment that he just wanted to be in his child's life. He did not care about profession. He did not care about making the money in the direction that he was previously. And that direction took him through a very long period of low income and removed his ability to fight in an arena he didn't think he was going to end up in. And so the mental strain on men and women, this is not sexist, the mental strain on the targeted parent to perform and produce in whatever their occupation is. Hopefully, they've got an absolutely tremendous, secure, great job. But it's not the case for everybody. It's not the case for the entrepreneur when it comes to money and where trading that time for money as an entrepreneur, you shift gears, you're losing that money. Now let's go to the other side of the coin and talk about military. Military, they don't have the time to go and battle some of these things and don't have a lot of money, but since the courts know they've got that very consistent pay, the military can tend to be a niche in this market and really getting taken advantage of. I know Robert Garza's talked a little bit with Mark Ludwig and some of the other folks at the national level. There is an arm of guys that are in that military space doing the same thing that you are with programs, potentially the same things I am with just raising awareness and broadcasting this stuff. But yeah, you're right. It is a movement, and anybody who thinks it's not all for the best, you got to question that. You
It's
really got to
exciting.
question that.
I feel like the tide has changed. I feel like when I started to speak out about this before, I was shaking so bad and I felt like I got attacked. I felt like every time I used alienation online, I would just get attacked by DV groups. and viciously, just like you could see, why can't I talk about what I went through? And it would just be, you can't use that word. That's a word that was come up, that was developed by someone who was a pedophile. You can't. And I just kept going, wow. And the suppression. And I think people need to look at the history of that. And it's going to look really disturbing when people find the intense amount of money that is associated with misinformation, false information, blocking a parent's access to their rights has become a $1 billion business, but it's changed. I feel like the victims have hit a plateau, and I think judges are scared now. People are getting caught now. Some of them are getting put in jail now for crimes and witness tampering and bribes. And even some of them we've seen on the news for sexual improprieties with children. And these are judges. Some of them, there was the one, I believe, I don't want to get the name wrong, and I don't want to say the name wrong, but there, the human side of family court that is allowed to grow like a mold is the secrecy and the lack of accountability. If you were to have cameras in courts, if you were to show how much every judge makes off of a case from Title 4D, from donations, it would stop overnight. People would say, oh my gosh, I'm not having anything to do with that system. But because it's all
Well,
in secret, it just goes on.
when we think about cautionary tales, I'm definitely hoping that the Deadbeat Chronicles is a source for people to have watched it enough, or the episodes and just the messaging to be like, don't do that, whether it's just an action not to do or a thought process. And this is a great big don't do that arena, is it not? There's
Don't
so
and
much.
do these things and get these resources and know your rights, write them down, get your court orders, print off your penal codes, get your affidavit, go to court, get the forms, look online. They make you think you can't do it, like, and there's a reason why they use
I
codes and words, but it's like math. Once you start saying, what's the form I need, now there's some courts where we're seeing there just is no justice. We've seen case after case where they will have the evidence, it's all tapped out, it's highlighted, dated, timelined. They've got a $15,000 assessment, they've got $30,000 evaluator, they've got a co-parenting specialist, they've got forensics, and a judge will still say, I don't think you should see your kids. And
Yeah,
that is
I'm
happening.
hoping we'll clip that very last part. You went down that list of everything. We should clip that list and just let everyone in America watch it, so they're like, my gosh, let's just co-parent nicely. It would be so much easier
Let's
than
just
this
hope
mess
that's
of
the
a
new
road.
flex. That's the new
Yeah.
way forward. That's what the young people are going to do, is have nothing to do with family courts, and we're going to cheer them on, and they're going to do conscious
And hopefully
co-parenting.
and hopefully us old folks. I'll
Yeah,
take
as
that one.
grandparents, we'll get to see
You're
it
not in that
happen,
category,
right?
but
Okay.
I'll put myself like, even the old folks. You know what I mean? We're
Even the
If you
old
think about
folks,
it,
me too.
if you think about it, maybe the old folks are the bitter ones. The experiences have happened. There's some bitter, hard hearts that need to be, softened, and obviously, or most likely that would be in case of reconciliation, hopeful reunification. But
That's
everything that you're
that's
talking about, I love. Go ahead. I stomped on you.
I just wanted to say I think that is a topic we should definitely talk about, is what the path of overcoming looks like, because it is different for some people. For some people, letting go and walking away has been so much more successful, and their children coming back, accepting, finding your voice, feeling free to speak out. There's so many
Mhm.
levels that people are changing and showing it. And it is neat. Cheer everybody on. That's one thing
It
that I would say, that if you're going to start somewhere, go on Facebook, and anybody who's trying, who's getting up after they fell on their face and wanted to give up, and you see them, cheer them on, because you all do that for me. The people that come to the community of Voice of Hope, they may not realize it. I may be at 3 a.m. I'm like, I can't believe this happened. And I'm just like, and I'm just like, and I just was, that feeling of how did the family court take my children or my child? How did this happen? And someone will pop up on a comment and just say, I see you, thank you. And I'm just like, we're doing the right thing. We are. We don't know how, but we have God on our side, like you said. So let's just keep it going. I want to
I
keep doing these.
How many successful people have we heard tell us concentrate on the actions, not on the results? Let's just keep concentrating on the actions. Audience here, you're going to see Lily and I together doing different things, whether it's more episodes, maybe being on different shows, bringing on all kinds of different folks in this space to talk about all these things for a better American family, a better American family, a better American blended family. If you got to get a divorce, if dissolution of marriage is unavoidable, take some deep breaths and look to the future. What's your game plan? Is it a long-term game plan? Excuse me, is it a long-term game plan? I would doubt it. If it is a long-term game plan and it is meant to alienate and meant to divide, take a step back. I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So with that, Lily, um, that was a great show. I know we'll talk more. We've got the April 11th is coming up. That's very exciting.
Not going
Um,
on.
we'll talk about that more and more over the next 30 days. We're here recording this on March 11th, so we've got a good 31 days here to ramp up and put something really good together.
Yep. Thanks so much for all you do too, giving people like me and our passion to help victims in the family court and parental alienation overcome. So it's such an honor to be able to work with you, and I'm looking forward.
You
There's a lot
too.
to talk about. Hopefully, we can incorporate the community, people's voices, their questions, their opinions, their experiences at their courthouse, and they feel seen and heard by what we're doing. And so I appreciate you.
You too. You too, Lily. I'll talk to you very soon. Everybody, thanks for watching today, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Deadbeat Nation. That was Lilly Landikusic from Voices of Hope. And if there's one thing today's conversation reminds us of, it's this. Behind every custody case number, behind every legal filing, behind every court order, there are real families trying to hold their lives together. And when those orders aren't enforced, when one parent disappears from a child's life because the system moves too slowly or not at all, the ripple effects are huge. Lily and the Voices of Hope community are trying to bring those stories into the light and start conversations that a lot of people in power would honestly prefer quiet. If you want to follow the work she's doing, check out the Voices of Hope page on Facebook and learn more about the advocacy happening around custody interference awareness. And if today's episode hit close to you for home, you're definitely not alone in that. Now, before you go, do us a favor and hit the subscribe button on the YouTube Deadbeat Chronicles channel. Like the video, share it with someone who's been through the family court rodeo, and drop a comment telling us what topics you want us to tackle next. Because this show exists for one reason: to talk about the conversations people are already having in the parking lots after court, but nobody wants to have on camera. Until next time, take care of your kids, take care of your sanity, and remember, sometimes surviving the system is its own kind of victory. We'll see you on the next episode of the Deadbeat Chronicles.